Hello, Seiiti Arata. If you buy books and never read them, you're probably practicing Tsundoku. The Japanese word Tsundoku is used to describe the action of acquiring reading material and letting piles of books build up at home without reading them. Tsundoku is different from bibliophilia, which is simply loving books. Bibliophiles feel happy surrounding themselves with books, even if they don't read them all. Tsundoku is also different from bibliomania, which would be the pathological, unhealthy version, an obsession in acquiring more and more books to the point where it begins to damage your quality of life. Bibliophilia and bibliomania are both characterized by an intention to just create a collection of books, but people who practice Tsundoku have conflicting feelings. On the one hand, they have a sincere intention to read the books that they buy. However, without an efficient reading system, they end up never reading all the books they have bought. And this pile of unread books is thought to cause feelings of guilt, frustration, anxiety, distress. These feelings also appear when they want to buy even more new books. And you can decide what you want your bookshelf to represent. Depending on your choice, the books you have read can become a symbol of the real knowledge that you have acquired and the reading you have done, or the books you haven't read can be a symbol of guilt and anxiety. The feeling of guilt often appears when you don't reach your reading goals. You notice how you feel when you don't read all the books you have bought. Learn to recognize your own emotions. Understanding your emotions is an important component of emotional intelligence. Remember the times when you finished a really good book. Usually, you feel enthusiasm, the desire to find another good book to read. And this feeling is positive even if you think like, oh, too bad it's over. Because deep down, this apparent annoyance, there's a desire to read more. On the other hand, when you are a collector of unread books who suffers from Tsundoku, you feel overloaded. You think you will not manage to read everything. Be careful not to beat yourself up or feel incompetent or stupid. If you feel guilty or frustrated when you realize you have become a book collector, what can you do? First, recognize that this behavior is damaging your life and decide to make a change. Examine your behavior from a rational perspective. Remember your intention when you bought that book. If you bought a book with a sincere intention to read it and you have not read it yet, and now you already want to buy another new book? What happened? Is this incoherent? The desire to read the previous book has disappeared now because now you found another book that is maybe even better, deserves to be prioritized? Or are your plans unrealistic? Or do you have no plan at all? You just simply buy books on emotional impulse. Pay attention to the signs in order to create a realistic reading strategy. If you are not happy with your behavior, use a more intelligent system. If you are happy with Tsundoku, continue doing what you have always done. However, if you look at your unread books and if you feel negative emotions, or if you feel conflicting emotions of desire and guilt when you buy new books before reading the ones you already have, you should realize that you need to change your behavior. In the Intelligence Arata Academy course, we cover intelligent reading techniques in detail that allow you to absorb more information in less time. But that's not what we're talking about today. Instead of reading techniques, I'd like to ask you about the emotions that you feel towards books. Are you the kind of a person who treats books with excessive care? Do you handle books carefully to avoid damaging the pages? Or to keep your books in a beautiful bookshelf to organize them by color? Think a little. Do you really understand the true value of books? Books are not made to decorate shelves. It is not smart to fetish-size books. Fetish-sizing is attributing mystical powers or even feelings to objects. Fetish-sizing is when you don't want to handle your book because you want to keep it immaculate. Fetish-sizing is treating books like decorations that need to be preserved from being used. The real use of books is actually to be used, to be read. And active reading is done by turning the pages and even taking notes, as long as the book belongs to you, of course. The idea of books being untouchable objects should stay in the past. A well-used book that provided information is better than an immaculate book left untouched. Part of the Tsundoku habit of buying books and leaving them untouched on a shelf as decoration comes from the idea that books are precious ornaments, fetishes that need to be honored and preserved in immaculate condition, not touched or handled. These ideas are directly associated with the historical origin of books themselves. Written documents have existed for 5,000 years, but books only became popular around 200 years ago, which is very recent in terms of the history of humanity. The first documents were written by professionals dedicated to writing. Few people knew how to write at that time, and very few people had access to the necessary materials. There were no stationary stores around the corner, so you could go and buy ink and quill and papyrus. And because of this, only official and religious texts were written. Therefore, access to writing and reading was very restricted for thousands of years. Until the Middle Ages, access to books was practically exclusive to religious people. Only monks who were copyists could reproduce books by writing by hand, and there were not many books available to be read. To have this kind of knowledge was to have power. Even when the printed press was invented, allowing books to be reproduced, writing and reading continued to be the privilege of people with money or power. It was only in the 19th century, over 200 years ago, that reading and having access to books slowly started becoming more popular. The general public were not allowed to be touching or handling books, as they were restricted to a privileged minority. Books couldn't be touched, they could only be seen, they had to be kept in immaculate condition. And that is why even nowadays there is a strong culture of treating books as something sacred. Books are fetishized. When someone says that they're holding a book in their hand and smelling the pages of a new book, we should question, does that person like the smell of a new book more than the useful knowledge that the book provides? The fetish of an immaculate book starts from these ideas that books should remain perfect, without marks, without notes, without folded pages, as if there was some type of an obligation to keep the book untouched after buying it. This attitude prevents you from getting the best out of your books. This is an attitude that should be abandoned. To get the best out of your books, stop treating these objects as very special things. Start seeing books as tools, as instruments for you to reach a practical objective. Take a look at a shoe. A shoe is a tool. When you buy it, it is new, immaculate. But as you use the shoe, it gets worn and dirty. A worn shoe is an object that was used and met an objective. In the same way, a book is an object that allows you to reach an objective. The objective is providing information, either through entertainment or to learn something new. This means that you should use the books in the most efficient way possible to reach these objectives. So don't be afraid to highlight paragraphs, or to take notes in the margins, or to fold pages to read faster. This does not mean that you should intentionally damage your books, of course. Just as you don't intentionally damage your shoes, you're not going to be damaging your books for no reason, with no purpose. For intelligence, the worst thing is having no interest at all in books and knowledge. The second worst thing is simply buying books and not reading them. There is no point in spending money on books if you don't actually read these books. And when I say read, I mean carefully reading, understanding what the author is saying, and applying what can be applied to your life. Obviously, everyone can do what they want with their own books. There is nothing wrong with buying beautiful art books or photography books or a book set to be part of the decoration on a coffee table. You just have to be clear about whether you're buying these books as ornaments or as part of your collection. Do you understand? The problem is buying a book that you wanted to read and then buying another one before you even finish the first one, and then you start to feel guilty about it. Tsundoku only becomes a problem when you start filling up your shelves and deceiving yourself. The books on a shelf give you the impression that you are a bookworm, but you know that you're just accumulating books. This makes you feel guilty. You can use the intelligent reading techniques to read faster and acquire more knowledge. You can also change your mindset from seeing books as immaculate objects to seeing these same books as tools for you to achieve your goals and become a more intelligent person in the process. Books are not made to decorate shelves. If you treat your books like precious objects that remain untouched, you're wasting the opportunity to get the most knowledge from these books. If you're practicing Tsundoku and accumulating unread books with guilt, it might be the time to learn how to create a realistic reading strategy. In the Intelligence Arata Academy course, you will learn how to create this type of strategy step by step, becoming a high-level reader. If you want to know how to become a better reader, remembering what you read, and accessing the full power of your knowledge and intelligence, you can find out more about Intelligence Arata Academy by visiting arata.se/intelligence.